I just made deception, persuasion, and insight checks so much better. Representing an entire conversation with a single roll has always bothered me, so I do this instead. First, I set individual DCs for certain NPCs depending on what the players are trying to accomplish. If a player is trying to make a deception check, I'm going to set the DC as 10 plus the insight skill of the NPC, and then I'm going to let the player try and change it. I ask my players to make at least 1 point, but let them try to make up to 3. Now, before we worry about the rolls, I have them have the conversation. Try to lie to the NPC. And as the conversation continues, every time I feel they make a point in one direction or the other, that is going to raise or lower that DC. Let me give you an example. Players are trying to persuade a red dragon to help them. Now, rather than just roll a persuasion check and go on the dice, I will encourage them to have the conversation. If they try and convince the dragon that helping them would bring gold, well, that DC is going to drop by a point. If they try and tell the dragon that it would be doing the right thing, well, the dragon's not really going to care about that. That'll be an attempt, but a neutral result. DC will stay the same. And if they tell the dragon that it would be very appeasing to the paladin's god of Bahamut, well, that's going to raise the DC by a point. Obviously, those were very broad examples, but you get the gist. Just make sure that you're not forcing RP onto your players, but rather encourage them to engage with the story. I don't force my players to do this in the first person. They don't have to be in character, they can just list these points. You can use the same thing for insight. Have the player ask leading questions to whoever they're trying to read. You can even add roles into this equation. If they're trying to insight check someone that they can't directly talk to, maybe they watch their eye line. Make a perception check to track their facial features or their body language. If they're trying to make a deception check, maybe one of the points is to make a persuasion check. Maybe the player will tell you that they speak quickly, try to talk in circles, confuse the person they're trying to deceive. I'd add a persuasion check. Success or a failure will affect the DC of the final deception check. Leaving this all down to a single roll has a single roll represent an entire conversation. So instead, have the conversation affect the roll.